Hi, brave colleagues. You are welcome to another episode on Conversations in the Garden. Towards Easter, we are preparing ourselves through studying of the pillars of Lent. Today, we are coming to talk about fasting, one very controversial topic or pillar of Lent. And with me today is Brother Sixtus Mensah. Sixtus, you are welcome to Conversations in the Garden.
Thank you very much, Brother Elikem.
So, following our previous episodes, today we are going to talk about fasting, and our focus is on the do's and the don'ts of fasting. And so, can you just give us a brief explanation of what fasting is as a pillar of Lent?
Thank you, Brother Elikem, for having me on your channel. Hello, viewers. I am happy to be here. I'm going to answer the question simply. Fasting is actually abstaining from something. So fasting is basically, there's no actually proper formula towards fasting. It's actually abstinence, and you decide what you are going to abstain from. So you can decide to abstain from food, you can decide to abstain from drinks, you can decide to abstain from some things that bring you pleasure. You do always, and then it brings you pleasure. So you are deciding consciously to abstain from such things.
Okay, so what is the goal of this abstinence?
So the goal of this abstinence is actually basically two major things. That is, the first is towards a spiritual growth, and then there's also a physical growth. Scientifically, it has been proven that when you fast a lot, it helps the system, because spiritually you bring the soul and the body together. It's like you are fasting or abstaining from something physically in order to feed the soul. So we feed on things almost every day now and then, forgetting the soul. But when you are fasting, it helps you to bring this body and soul together. Then in the context of the spiritual aspect, it also helps to build you up physically. Now the system, you are always eating, and the system is always running. So then when you abstain, then the system can also rejuvenate itself, reincarnate itself, be able to have that strength to also move on when you give it another try of food and other stuff. So basically it's spiritually and physically.
Okay, that is great. So to go right into the focus of this discussion, can you please tell us some of the do's of fasting, the things to do when you are fasting, especially in relation to the season of Lent?
Okay, so when I began, I said that fasting doesn't have any proper formula, but when you are fasting, you should be able to know the do's. Now you should pray. Fasting is not done in a vacuum. You can't just say, oh, I'm fasting, so like everybody is doing in this Lenten season, everybody is fasting, so then I'm fasting. What are you fasting for? There should be a purpose, and this prayer will actually help in the spiritual growth. You see, if you pray, then you are spiritually growing. So you don't just do the fasting in a vacuum. Now the second thing is, you must have a purpose. The purpose of this fasting, maybe you are fasting to achieve something. Maybe some people actually even fast to physically reduce weight. You get the point? So it is scientifically proven, when you starve the body for some time, you feel that you are losing weight. So you must have a purpose. Spiritually, maybe you are fasting from food, from drinks, from movies, so that you can have this particular relationship with God, increase that kind of communication with God. So that is it for the. Then we come to the to the don'ts. Now, Jesus Christ gives a model that when you are fasting, he didn't even actually specify what you are supposed to fast from. So that's how come we open it up to movies or things that you do to give you pleasure. So he talked about don't be in a gloomy disposition. So the don'ts, you must not be gloomy. People fast in order to let other people know that they are fasting.
They are spiritual.
They are spiritual. So this is a kind of fasting without purpose. It's like you are being hypocritical. Now that is why Jesus will come in and say, if you do this kind of fasting, then you have already received your reward, because the people there around are actually praising you already. Meanwhile, you are doing this in relation to your maker or your object of in this particular context, God, the supreme being that we serve, and he is in the best position to reward you. So Jesus Christ will say, don't be gloomy, put on a nice face. It's not as if you are lying. No. A friend, I was actually fasting this week, and a friend asked me why I didn't come to the dining hall. I didn't say I didn't say I am not in the mood to eat, or I didn't even give him the reason why that's why I'm fasting. No, I told him, I am actually I was late for class, so I had to give up the food. But this is not actually lying. This is trying to go by Jesus's term of not being hypocritical or letting other people know, blowing your trumpet. Otherwise, you have already received the reward.
You have made the whole conversation on fasting very simple, and I like that so much. But for us Catholics, and because we are doing this in relation to the season of Lent, fasting, you mentioned that you have to pray, or it is connected to prayer, and prayer is one of the pillars of Lent. So is another pillar, which is charity or almsgiving.
Yeah.
How is fasting related to charity?
Good. Now, you see, when you are fasting from certain things that give you pleasure, it is also to give you the opportunity to give out those things so that you can fast. For instance, fasting in relation to, for instance, I like watching movies a lot. How do I become charitable towards my brother? For I can decide not to watch these movies. The data I use to watch the movies, I can actually give it to my brother to do his also researches. Then when it comes to drinks, if you are fasting from drinks, you can give out these drinks. If you are fasting from food, you can leave the food out, and people will gladly benefit from that. So that's how fasting is related to prayer and then charity.
So the pillars of Lent are not in isolation, they are all connected. Let's say it's just one,
yeah.
So as you fast, you pray and you do charity. As you pray, you fast and then you do, so it's just a connection between
there's something like a coil. Yeah,
sure, that is good. And my final question is, there are some of us that think that fasting from food or abstinence from food is the only way to fast, and so when we see others who are not abstaining from food, we see them as not being spiritual or not following the teachings of the church for us to be fasting during this season of Lent. What do you say about that?
Well, if you heard me rightly, I would like to quote like from Jesus in Matthew chapter 6 verse 16. It was actually Jesus speaking about things that we do. For instance, things like prayer, how you should approach prayer, go into your room, the deepest part of your room, and pray. Now he comes down to fasting. Now he didn't give, like I said already, he didn't give what you are supposed to fast from. Fasting is from something. So if you see in this Lenten season, you see a brother not always visiting a particular place or always eating, doesn't mean he's not fasting or he's not spiritual or he's not praying. Maybe he might be fasting from something else apart from food. So can everybody. So Jesus will say, and whenever you fast, do not look dismal. So fasting from what? Maybe drinks. I won't look dismal like the hypocrites, for they disfigure their faces so that other people will know that they are fasting. Truly, I tell you, you have received your reward already. But when you fast, pour oil, look nice, laugh, smile, go about your normal duties, knowing that you have short prayers you are doing, and then what you are fasting from, you share. So it's not particularly about food, no. Fasting could be about other things, which you know gives you pleasure, but you want to do away with that for the purposes of prayer and charity and spiritual goals.
Thank you, Brother Sixtus, for this brief explanation and then discussion on fasting. That is the do's and then the don'ts of fasting. I believe it is one of the simplest I've ever heard, and I believe our viewers are happy with your presentation on fasting. Thank you, and we hope to have you with us another time on Conversations in the Garden. Thank you very much.
Thank you.